Welcome to a journey into the shadows of Singapore's past, where eternal slumber is anything but peaceful. We begin our countdown of the island's most haunted cemeteries, starting with a place veiled in both colonial and wartime mystery. 10. The Bukit Timah Cemetery. Established during Singapore's colonial era, the Bukit Timah Cemetery was a final resting place reflecting the early multiracial society, though its grounds were often quiet, serving mainly as a historical footnote. However, its tranquil pre-haunted history was violently shattered by the Japanese occupation during World War II. This area, surrounding the critical Bukit Timah Hill, was the site of fierce battles and atrocities committed during the fall of Singapore in 1942. The air here is now thick with the terror of that war, transforming the cemetery into a focal point of genuine spectral activity. Visitors and locals have frequently reported encounters with the ghosts of Japanese soldiers, notably spectral figures in faded uniforms seen marching silently near the old roads at the dead of night. But the most chilling reports involve something far older and more primal: the Bukit Timah Monkey Man. This is Singapore's very own Bigfoot, an upright walking, ape-like creature often sighted deep within the surrounding jungle. Its appearance sometimes linked to the cemetery grounds itself, suggesting a non-human, ancient entity disturbed by the conflict and the dead. The trauma of war, combined with the presence of this legendary cryptid, means that anyone daring to venture here after dark risks a confrontation with either the horrors of history or the wilds of legend. 9. Japanese Cemetery Park. Next, we delve into a serene yet deeply unsettling space: the Japanese Cemetery Park. Before the war, this place held a tragic and poignant history. Established in 1891, it was originally a burial ground for Japanese residents, predominantly the Karayuki-san, or Japanese women, who were brought to Singapore as destitute prostitutes. It was a place of quiet, often forgotten, sorrow for those who died far from home. The park's history dramatically darkened when it became a resting place for Japanese soldiers and civilians who perished during World War II. Following the war, some executed war criminals and soldiers who committed suicide were also cremated here, cementing the site's association with immense violence, despair, and national shame. The beautiful gardens and tranquil pathways mask a heavy spiritual burden. The most frequently reported paranormal incidents involve disembodied voices and wails often attributed to the Karayuki-san, their spirits forever bound by their tragic circumstances and lost homeland. More disturbingly, there are persistent accounts of seeing the shadowy figures of soldiers standing guard or patrolling the rows of headstones, especially near the large memorial for Field Marshal Hisaichi Terauchi. Those who wander too deep into the park's quiet corners have claimed to hear whispered Japanese commands or feel an overwhelming, sudden sense of anger and dread, a potent echo of a traumatic past that refuses to rest in peace. 8. Thomson Road Cemetery. Our 8th spot takes us to a site now largely claimed by the March of Progress, yet its echoes are felt beneath the asphalt and steel: the former Thomson Road Cemetery. Its history is complicated, as this area encompassed a Jewish cemetery that was eventually exhumed for development. The land near the Thomson Road stretch was historically a mix of burial grounds, with various communities interred, including some Jewish graves dating back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It was a quiet intersection of different faiths, a typical colonial-era burial zone. The supernatural history of this site is irrevocably linked to the construction that followed its closure and exhumation, particularly the building of the Novena MRT station. According to widespread belief, many of Singapore's MRT lines are built over former burial grounds, and Thomson Road's proximity to a former Jewish cemetery and other burial plots is a chilling confirmation. The real haunted incidents are a staple among former construction workers and late-night MRT staff. Ghostly figures of coffin bearers have been sighted along the underground tracks near Novena, as if perpetually moving the disturbed dead. Staff have also reported seeing shadowy apparitions or feeling an intense, sudden drop in temperature in certain sections of the tunnel after the last train has run. This is a haunting of displacement, where the spirits of the dead, having been uprooted from their rest, now wander the dark, sterile tunnels of the transport system built directly upon their eternal beds. 7. Bidadari Cemetery. We continue to a legendary, now exhumed site, the Bidadari Cemetery. Before its closure, the land's history was almost ironically beautiful. The name Bidadari means angel or fairy in Malay, and the site was once the location of Istana Bidadari, a royal residence given to the beautiful Danish second wife of the Sultan of Johor in the mid-1800s. It later became a major cemetery, operational from 1907 to 1972, serving both the Christian and Muslim communities. A peaceful, sprawling final home for thousands. Its history darkened with the immense number of interments. Over 126,000 graves were eventually exhumed. The mass exhumation and redevelopment into a modern housing estate, alongside the sheer volume of souls once resting there, created a vortex of paranormal activity. The vast, empty space where the graves once lay is said to retain the energy of the dead. The most widely reported haunted incidents involve shadow people and figures in white that dart across the remaining open fields at night. During the exhumation period, sightings of a white hooded figure, or a Kang, a Malay grave shroud ghost, were common. This specific specter is often tied to the belief that the body was not correctly untied before burial. Even today, where the housing estate now stands, residents and late-night drivers report sudden cold spots, the feeling of being watched, and the fleeting sight of figures that vanish as soon as they are acknowledged, suggesting the angels of Bidadari are not all at rest. 6. Lorong, Halus Cemetery. Our chilling halfway point brings us to a remote, industrial-fringed area that was once a sprawling and notorious burial ground, Lorong Halus Cemetery. This area's history is defined by its role as a Chinese burial site, largely for the less affluent, giving it a raw, isolated, and often neglected feel compared to grander cemeteries. Its remote location, bordered by wetlands and the vast former dumping ground of Lorong Halus, meant the grounds were steeped in both human sorrow and environmental decay. The isolation and the sheer volume of burials made it a magnet for folklore and ghost stories long before its eventual closure. Like many forgotten resting places, its history, after it became haunted, is a collection of disturbing accounts passed down by those who dared to enter. The real haunted encounters here often revolve around the theme of the lost and wandering dead. One terrifying and often repeated incident involves the sighting of a male ghost in traditional Chinese attire who appears to be walking, then suddenly begins to float silently above the ground, sometimes seen near the old pond or former entrance area. Another distinct encounter is the sound of frantic, disembodied weeping that seems to emanate from the trees on the periphery of the former cemetery, believed to be the spirits of abandoned or forgotten individuals. This site's darkness is palpable, a quiet terror that reminds you that some souls never leave the earth that held their remains. 5. Jalan, Kubor Cemetery. We continue journey in one of Singapore's most culturally significant, yet chillingly quiet burial grounds, the Jalan Kubor Cemetery. Its history is one of deep reverence and prestige. Established in the mid-19th century, it is one of the oldest Muslim cemeteries on the island, primarily serving the Kampong Glam Malay Bugis community. Its grounds are a historical monument, holding the graves of many early aristocratic families, religious scholars, and even royal descendants from the Sultanate of Singapore. Before it became haunted, it was a peaceful, if melancholic, resting place for the privileged and pious. The spiritual atmosphere shifted, not due to violence, but due to the sheer age and density of the interments and its isolated nature over time. As the surrounding areas developed, Jalan Kubor became an almost forgotten island of the dead in a sea of modernity, a condition that often invites lingering spirits. The real haunted incidents here often involve apparitions tied to the cemetery's noble past. People have encountered the ghost of a beautiful lady in traditional baju kurung, sometimes described as a royal figure, seen weeping silently near the older ornate tombs, perhaps lamenting a life or love lost long ago. Another common and unsettling experience is the phenomenon of disembodied footsteps and the sound of rustling silk following visitors who stray off the main paths, only to cease the moment one turns around. The most disturbing tales recount encounters with a malevolent jinn or earthbound spirit near the central mausoleums, capable of projecting intense feelings of panic and forcing visitors to flee the grounds in terror. Jalan Kubor holds the history of Singapore's early aristocracy, and perhaps their eternal sorrows. 4. Lim Chu Kang Christian Cemetery. Our countdown continues into the deep, isolated west of Singapore, to a location synonymous with ghost stories, the Lim Chu Kang Christian Cemetery. Before its haunted status cemented, this was simply a vast, quiet burial ground for the Christian community, established in an area known for its relative wilderness. Its history is one of pastoral simplicity, a place where the dead of various Christian denominations were laid to rest, away from the city bustle. The cemetery's transformation into a horror hotspot is directly linked to its extreme isolation and the nature of the terrain, surrounded by military training areas and thick forest. The dense, oppressive atmosphere made it the perfect stage for the infamous Pontianak legends, the vengeful female vampire of Malay folklore. The real haunted incidents here are relentless and terrifying. The most common and chilling is the sighting of the White Lady, often identified as a Pontianak, floating among the tombstones, typically near the enormous banyan trees. This spirit is said to be drawn to vehicles, and drivers along the adjacent Lim Chu Kang Road have reported seeing her hovering in their rear-view mirrors, or even standing directly in the road, forcing them to brake violently. Even more frightening are the cries of a baby heard deep within the grounds, a traditional sign of a Pontianak trying to lure victims. Many who have visited, often on ghost hunting expeditions, report feeling sudden, aggressive scratches on their backs or the suffocating scent of frangipani, the Pontianak's spectral perfume, a clear warning that the entity is close. 3. Lim Chu Kang Chinese Cemetery. Just a short, uneasy distance from its Christian counterpart lies our number 3 spot, the sprawling, notoriously haunted Lim Chu Kang Chinese Cemetery. This massive complex was established primarily for the Chinese community, a final resting place defined by the Qingming festival traditions. Before its closure and the subsequent exhumations, it was a colorful, active, and vast landscape of ornate tombs and memorial statues, a vibrant cultural space of the dead. The grounds became a vortex of paranormal reports due to their immense size, the high density of graves, and the subsequent disturbance caused by mass exhumations for redevelopment, leaving vast stretches of empty, spirit-heavy land. The catalog of real haunted encounters here is enormous, focusing heavily on traditional Chinese spectral figures. The most commonly reported incident is the terrifying sight of Hantu Tetek, or the breast ghost, an old woman spirit with huge, pendulous breasts, said to chase and frighten intruders. Another frequent and disturbing encounter is the sight of hungry ghosts, or panay, wandering aimlessly, their lower halves often transparent, particularly during the 7th lunar month. Furthermore, drivers using the nearby roads have reported seeing ghostly figures carrying lanterns who appear to be guiding a spectral funeral procession across the main road, sometimes causing drivers to swerve to avoid collision with the intangible. This cemetery is not merely haunted, it is teeming with the lost souls of Chinese folklore, forever tied to the earth they were buried in. 2. Choa Chu Kang Cemetery. We are now at the penultimate stop on our dark tour, the largest and still active burial ground in Singapore, the Kang Cemetery. This immense complex is the ultimate resting place for a vast cross-section of Singaporean society, housing Chinese, Christian, Muslim, and various other community burial sections. Its pre-haunted history is simply its function: to be the primary, ongoing, final home for the nation's deceased, a huge, sprawling city of the dead. Its sheer scale and continuous use, the constant flow of life and death, make it an epicenter for paranormal activity. Its status as a perpetual burial site means the spiritual doors here never truly close, creating a high concentration of energy and lingering spirits. The real haunted incidents reported at Choa Kang are diverse and prolific due to its size and multicultural residents. One of the most common and spine-chilling reports involves the spirit hitchhiker phenomenon, where drivers passing through the vast grounds late at night pick up a seemingly human passenger, only for them to vanish into thin air while the car is moving. In the Muslim section, many have reported seeing the Pocong, the shrouded figure, bouncing between the headstones. Perhaps the most unique and unnerving encounters are the disembodied sounds of children playing and giggling in the quiet sections, particularly near the mass grave areas, suggesting the spirits of the youngest dead are trapped in a spectral playground. Choa Kang is a sprawling, living testament to death, and its endless dark roads are a constant route for the spirits. 1. Bukit Brown Cemetery. And finally, we arrive at the undisputed king of Singapore's haunted landscape, the majestic, sprawling, and deeply atmospheric Bukit Brown Cemetery. Its history is one of immense national importance. Opened in 1922, it became the largest Chinese cemetery outside of China, serving as the final resting place for the island's most prominent pioneers, philanthropists, and early merchant elite. It was a cultural treasure, with thousands of beautifully maintained, monumental tombs and intricate carvings, a true city of the dead, representing the wealth and culture of Singapore's past. The tragedy and subsequent spike in hauntings came with the government's plans for exhumation and the carving of an 8-lane highway right through the heart of the cemetery. The act of disturbing these powerful, pioneering ancestors and demolishing their grand tombs is believed to have unleashed an incredible, concentrated wave of spiritual energy. The real haunted incidents reported here are perhaps the most chilling and complex. The most famous is the Guardian of Bukit Brown, a large, towering figure, often seen near the oldest tombs, believed to be the spirit of a grand ancestor or a spiritual protector who is highly aggressive toward those who disrespect the grounds. Visitors have also frequently encountered disoriented older figures in dated clothing who appear to be lost and weeping among the remaining graves, often asking for directions to their former homes. But the most terrifying experience is the feeling of being paralyzed and overwhelmed by a psychic weight near the disturbed areas, a wave of despair and rage from the thousands of ancestors whose peaceful rest was destroyed. Bukit Brown is a place where history, wealth, and profound anger rest side by side, making it Singapore's most intense paranormal site.